We are here. It's Wednesday night. I'm happy to be here. My name's TJ Spitter. We got people tuning in early. Normally, it takes a little bit to get the crowd going and involved.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing, brother.
What we're about to see. We're about to see. So the man that I have on tonight, I've had a relationship with for over 30 years. And that's where I think people don't understand the relationship. And I hold you in the highest regard. You're a family to me.
Same.
And we'll give you a quick backstory, right? Like the last album that I made, as I was completing songs, I was sending them out like my family gets first listen. Let me know what you think. A close group of friends, and then you. So there's like 10 people that get to hear these things. And I remember I got done with the song for Bob. I came over, drove over to your house, and you got in the car and we just listened to it. And like that's one of my more fond memories of completing that song is like I got to see your reaction to it, you know.
Yeah.
But this is not about me, Bobby Fulper. How are you doing this evening?
Well, besides tearing up right now because I remember the memory completely.
Right.
The whole reason I knew that you had evolved into rapping was because of Bob. He had come to my home and had showed me all these videos. He was so proud of you, brother. He was so proud of you. He was sitting at my dining room table and he was so you couldn't shut him up. Right. You couldn't shut him up. He wouldn't leave my house until I watched every single one of your videos and listened to your songs. And I was impressed. As I love him. God rest his soul. And he'll forever be remembered here in the town of Phillipsburg. Forever.
Sure.
As far as how I'm feeling, I'm on COVID day 6. That's why my face is white. I'm going to drink a lot of water. But there was no way I was going to miss this interview, my man. No way.
And we've been talking about this for a while,
Yeah.
and the stars aligned and here we are. To get started, as soon as I put up the flyer, man, that you're going to be on the show, my phone starts going off. What are you having this guy on for? What does he have to do with anything? And that's why I explained our relationship, because I don't think people understand the relationship that we had.
You mean TJ, they weren't like overwhelmingly excited with my presence?
No, sir. No, sir. Definitely not a fan favorite.
Believe it or not, I get that everywhere I go.
You don't say.
Yeah. I think it's the political atmosphere in the town of Phillipsburg is what I think it is.
Okay.
That I have a strong tendency to say what's on my mind. I have an abrasive
Sure.
personality. But you know that. And
Yeah.
I don't shy away from the truth. And
Absolutely not.
The truth hurts,
Well, we got some comments coming in early.
Already?
We got Michael Sexton saying me and Bobby have been friends for 58 years. Hey, Mike, bro, you're up next. You're going to quit ducking me. You're going to come sit in this hot seat, too.
Mike Sexton has gotten me in the hot seat on more than one occasion, my man. More than one occasion, Mike Sexton has gotten me in the hot seat. Mike was a guest on a podcast we had, and then became a member of the podcast. Helped me out in beginning the podcast, and
right.
Mike. He's the inspiration for a lot of things, and I love the kid with all my heart. Same with I saw Matt Skirbo pop up as well. Skirbo, my man, is he's my brother, and I will fight alongside of him till the day that I die.
Same here. Same here. Absolutely family. Been family for a long time. Before we dive into the debauchery, if you would.
Sure.
Let's talk about what Phillipsburg was like for us growing up.
Man, I don't know about you, brother, but Phillipsburg to me, I mean, it was my playground. The entire town was my playground,
Yes.
I grew up on Brainerd Street downtown. Then my family had moved when we'd lost our home on Brainerd Street. Not a lot of people know this, but we were homeless for quite some time. My father had was able to get a home on Marshall Street in Phillipsburg. And we weren't homeless through no fault of my family's. He had a business, and unfortunately, he had lost that business because of his partners, and they foreclosed on our home. So, and that was when we were kids, right? So, a lot of people seem to think that I'm stuck up and I'm a snob, and I'm not by any means. I know what it's like to struggle. It's
Right.
why my
Sure.
kids. It's why my kids won't have to. That's why.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's why if I had anything to say about it, your kids wouldn't have to struggle, nor the kids of
Right.
this community. Um, you know, but Phillipsburg was such a tight community, and I don't think it's much different now, other than it's a different dynamic. But we didn't have social media when we were kids, and
Right.
back when we were, I say backstage, but it was off camera when before the show started. You and I actually had this discussion, and it goes back to 85 Lewis Street, and man, 85 Lewis Street this year, I had to make one of the hardest decisions of my life as a councilman in the town of Phillipsburg, and that was to move to demolish that building. Every day I was getting phone calls from Todd Tersigny saying that building needs to come down. I mean, the guy's got an innate he has a love affair with bulldozers. He just wants to take everything and level them. But that building, that structure, Megan Box lived there. My cousin Jimmy lived there. Like I had stated earlier, and my cousins Chris and Todd lived there. You were always there on that corner with your headphones on, and it just meant that structure meant a lot to me. That whole part of town, the whole hill area, means a lot to me. And it was a time when everyone knew everybody. Your parents would have been allowed to beat me, right?
No, for sure.
Um,
For sure. And not to interrupt you, but one of the illest ass whoopings I've ever caught. Ever. I'm in Devin Bowden's house.
oh,
I'm with Billy and Richie, right? And I'm
yes.
on this is back when we had house phones. I'm on the house line with Marianne, and Deb walked past me, and I said something real slick to her. I forget what came out of my mouth, but she took the phone and she cracked me with it.
I love Debbie and Bowden. Debbie and
Oh
Bowden was
man,
everybody's mother. She really
for
was, and
sure,
she looked out
for
for us.
sure.
And the entire family, the Embodens, the Gallocks, they're great, just great people. This is what I'm talking about. You know, we had that dynamic here in this town. We had that family affair. I just saw Greg Cartagena. Greg
Yeah.
Cartagena, this guy, I love him. I mean, you go back to Phillipsburg. These guys are Phillipsburg. There was a time where me and Cardi were hanging out at one point in time. I was 18 years old, and I had an immense amount of friends that spanned all different kinds of I guess socioeconomic statuses or friend groups. Um, and I enjoyed every single one of them. They've all made an impact in my life, and
Absolutely.
without
It's funny how the town worked. We would start up on the hill,
yeah,
Freeman School, get our little group of friends going there. We'd hop on the bikes, go down the hill, hit the park down there,
yep,
and make our rounds.
Mercer Street, man.
Mercer Street.
Mercer Street was the place. That's where everybody hung out, was on Mercer Street.
Most definitely.
It was a lot of good times, man. A lot of good times, and we're growing up, brother, and I'm watching, our friends pass. I'm watching our friends move, and I'm watching Phillipsburg. I'm watching Phillipsburg deteriorate, and it's one of the reasons I got involved in politics. I didn't realize what a horrible, toxic environment that it was when I did get into it. Now, I'm not saying I was perfect by any means, because I did allow that to take control of me at one point in time. And I even let my hate for some of the things that was happening fuel my behavior. And, I had to take a step back and realize, like, what am I doing? What is it worth it? And to me, it wasn't worth it what it was doing to my body.
Right.
My blood pressure was suffering. I couldn't sleep. But for the people and for the decisions and because of the promises that I made to everyone, it was worth it. It absolutely was. And I wouldn't take back anything anything that I've done when I was serving the people.
And that's what it's about, serving the people.
Right.
right? It's not about
Absolutely.
the hidden agendas. It's not about the good old boys club. We're gonna get into all this, man. Listen, if y'all didn't like me before, you're probably not gonna like me when this is all said and done.
Well, I'm going to tell the
You know,
truth. So if you know, only ask questions you want the answers to.
yeah, I'm not
Okay.
even. It's like I said, it's a conversation. I don't like for this. I didn't go into it like, what are we gonna talk about? What kind of conversations can we have? You know, to start off, you had two podcasts that you ran,
Yes.
which you had me on as a guest, and it inspired me a little bit to start this.
Well, I'm grateful to be an inspiration to of sorts, but I always think you had this in you. I really do.
Sure, sure.
Um, so the hour 45 was born out of an idea that I wish I could say was just mine, and it wasn't. It was Frank McVeigh, who everyone also knows and loves. Former council president Frank McVeigh, who was my very first wrestling coach
Right.
for PAL, and I love him like a brother. And he was one
Shout
of the
out to
best
Frank,
councilmen.
man.
Frank is a great human being and one of the very best councilmen this town has ever seen. He's right up there with Mark Lutz and Randy Piazza. You know, but Frank and I sat down and we said, you know, the opposition had this private Facebook group where they were constantly attacking us and spreading rumors and we became subject of so many lies and there was no way we could combat them, right? And we
Right,
we couldn't do it in a council meeting because we had to hold a certain decorum. You know, plus it wasn't topics that you would bring up in a council meeting, you know.
right,
So Frank and I then decided, well, you know what? Let's go to the airwaves. Let's get into podcasting, and we did, and it was a hit. Now, earlier Mike Sexton was on, and Mike was extremely instrumental in that. And again, I don't know if you when Mike comes on the show, I'll let him tell his backstory. But Mike's a comedian down in Memphis, works for a radio station. Not going to say which one, or he'll be doxxed tonight, and they'll all be out there to get him. But you know, Mike had the radio show drum up our intro. He helped steer us in the right direction to get started, showed me what equipment to get. Um, and he was just you know, very helpful. And then I had him on the show and my entire life changed after that. I actually think that the Stetner family still has a hit on me because of Mike's comments on my show. Um, but, and then we did From the Right, another spinoff. Like I did my own solo show From the Right. And I
right,
wanted that to be more serious. And I wanted it to address more serious issues because the hour 45 was more, you know, it was more like comedy driven, but
sure.
it was comedy driven, TJ, because it was all true. And you couldn't
Right.
make any of this stuff up. Like this stuff, the crazy things we spoke of, it was all true. There was nothing false that we've ever stated on that show.
Right.
Um, you know, and then From the Right was I wanted it to be a little bit more informative, a little bit more serious. And you know, we did pull the show in December of 2020. Uh, it was a mutual decision amongst us all because we didn't want to further divide the town. We realized that it was taking on a life of its own.
Right.
And so we had stopped and you know that I've thought about bringing it back up From the Right anyway. I just don't know. I don't know where I'm at currently. I know I want to spend a lot more time with my wife and my kids. I missed 4 years of my life with my kids. You know, my son's 19, so from 15 to 19, I hardly saw him. All for good cause. I'm not complaining, but I think that I need to focus more right now on my family as they're growing up and leaving the home. And if I make my return, whether it be to podcasting, whether it be to politics, I know that whatever I choose to do, I will still try and make a difference here in my community.
That's what it's about, right? Like for me, everything that I do, like, cause I know eyes are on me,
Yeah,
no matter what I do, you know. And I believe that I'm a man of integrity, which means that I carry myself the same way outside when people are looking at me, the same way I do inside when there's nobody else around, you know. And whatever we can do to get Phillipsburg doesn't feel like home to me anymore, you know. And as a place that I bleed garnet and gray, bro. You know, like I drive through town going to work. It's just not the same vibe. You know, it's not the same vibe.
Well, it's sad because we were on the return, and before I had gotten involved in politics, I didn't see all of this. I didn't know any of this. And I should have. I should have paid more attention, and I didn't. I didn't see what was truly happening. There were people there that I believed in. There were people that I was friends with or that I looked up to that I thought were, politicians I should be looking up to. And it's their fault. It's their
Right,
fault. The town looks the way it does because
right,
they were so focused on their own agendas. They were always focused on themselves. And, someone had once said that, they're lining their pockets. They're not lining their pockets with the money they make from town council. I can tell you that, and through no disrespect to the taxpayers, I just don't think anybody really knows what we make.
right.
And for those who don't know, it's $3,000 a year. Which comes to $88 to $100 every 2 weeks. But you don't do it for the money. You're doing it to better your town. But then you would see these individuals and that the decisions they're making will only benefit themselves or the groups they're around. We saw it when we ran, we saw it in the Ellis administration. And I don't want to be unfair to Steve Ellis because it didn't just happen with Steve.
Right.
I think Steve Ellis, in my personal opinion, cut a lot of unfair treatment for me. Okay. And
Right.
I'm man enough to say that. If I could go back to November 2019 all over again, Steve Ellis would have my vote. Um, you know, and I'm a Republican, and I think that we would have been better off with him than what we have now. But what we're seeing is 30 years of poor decisions, 30 years of providing families with jobs, 30 years of ignoring the taxpayers. Now,
Right.
don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that Steve was a great individual, or I don't want to put him down. Right? He's got kids and he's got family that are going to see this too.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
you know,
And not to cut you off, like I'm not doing this. I didn't bring you on to
mhm,
slander anybody.
not going to happen. I'll tell you the
You know what I
truth,
mean?
but it's not going to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Most definitely.
You know, um, if I speak ill, it's in terms of being truthful, but I'm very cognizant, very aware of what I say about people, especially when you're on this type of medium. Um,
Right.
only because you don't want to. Number one, families are off limits, right?
That's it.
They've always been off limits, except for some reason the opposition feels the need to attack mine. They've attacked my deceased father numerous times, and you knew my dad,
Absolutely.
and I think they just went after you because they knew what hurt.
Yeah.
Um, but that's Phillipsburg politics, and one politician told me at one point in time they will dig up your dead grandmother and just to get to you,
Mhm.
and I didn't believe him, but he was right. They will do
Right.
whatever they can, and the good old boys are back in charge again,
Right.
and through
And
no.
so I wanted like because I'm looking at what people are saying and like Bob and Bowden, right? Shout out to that's my brother Bob. Shout out to Kyle Rivera and Mike Sexton. And here's a prime example. Like if you would drive through Phillipsburg in the summer, right?
Mhm.
Say you cross over the Free Bridge, you go down behind Joe's, Mercer Street Park.
Yep.
That park is full. It's standing room only, and there's a line of people to play basketball.
Yeah.
You go up the hill to the high school, it's the same way. You go to Walters Park, it's the same way throughout the entire summer. So if I'm driving through the town and it's the summertime now, I don't see any of that.
You know, I don't know if that has anything to do with, the current state of the town as it does with the current state of society though as well. Kids are more glued to their video games than anything today.
For sure.
I know I live up here now on Purcell Hill. I hate saying up here, but I live, I moved to Purcell Hill in 2018 and I see kids playing in the park constantly. But you're right. When I drive through the town now, I think we have to worry a little bit more too. There's a lot more violent offenders out in Phillipsburg today. And that's scary. You hear a lot more violent crime in Phillipsburg. That did change. Um, and I don't know what the answer is. And a lot of people will say, well, our police department aren't doing their jobs, right? That's what they're saying. But
I
again,
don't think that's the case.
no, I think that's the police are limited in what they can do because of national laws and because, not because of local politics, but because of national politics and because, agendas have driven us to a certain extent to where people are limited, you know.
Right.
Some of the greatest guys I know are police officers out here in Phillipsburg, and they want to go home to their families too at night too and keep their jobs, you know. It's tough. I don't know. I don't think I could ever do that job, honestly. I don't,
I couldn't. I couldn't.
you know.
There's no question in my mind that I couldn't, Um,
We could be chief. We could be chief of police. I know we could because anybody could do that. Right, Mike? I know Mike Sexton's listening.
What if you could change one thing about the town to make it better, what would you do? Unlimited resources, unlimited funds.
I would provide a means to bring every single family in this town out of poverty. If I could do anything, that is what I would do. Phillipsburg is at an 18% poverty rate and climbing. We have families that, they two parents aren't working. They're on assistance. They can't find a job. There's jobs out there, and they go to apply for a job either. And again, I don't judge anyone. Some of them are convicted felons, so they can't find jobs. Some of them, have abuse issues, right? Narcotics abuse issues, and they're judged before they even walk in the door. Some of them don't have a car. So we need to provide some type of means for employment here in the town of Phillipsburg, and encourage them to engage in the employment and provide for their families. And I think it's doable. I think we laid the groundwork for that. I'm worried that agendas will stop it because there's a lot of people that aren't from here that moved here, or a lot of people that have like one business downtown, employs one person at $8 or $9 an hour, and they all you hear about is this warehouse project, warehouse. Well, warehouses are the new malls. They're the new jobs. That's it. And I mean, you're not going to make $20 an hour at these small businesses. And I'm not saying that we don't need small businesses, because we do need small businesses, but small business owners can't afford to pay their employees $25 an hour, So we need to be able to create some type of medium to bring each and every single one of our residents out of poverty. That's what we need to do.
And to be clear, we talk about the poverty line. The poverty line, people say, I know families living paycheck to paycheck, and they're considered above the poverty line.
Sure.
I don't think that's a way to live.
It's not a way to live, unfortunately.
80% of the people that I know, that I love and care for, we all live paycheck to paycheck.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
It's become a way.
Yeah.
We have no choice. And Phillipsburg people are accustomed to that. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. We should all be proud of that. No matter what, at least we have paychecks coming in.
All hard workers.
Right. They are. This town was built on industry. This town, everyone keeps saying, I want Phillipsburg to be New Hope. Why? I want Phillipsburg to be Easton. Why? Right? We're Phillipsburg.
Right.
It's why we have the personalities that we do have. It's why we're fighters. I don't want to be Easton. No offense to Easton. Love them too. I don't want to be New Hope. I don't want to be Easton. I don't want to be Allentown. I want to be Phillipsburg. It's why I've chosen to raise my family here.
Right.
You got these outsiders coming in, and they believe they know best, and they just, we don't have that type of infrastructure. Easton has a circle. You have the half circle in Allentown. You have the square in Bethlehem. You don't have that here in Phillipsburg. You have a throughway. Our true business district is on 22. That's our thoroughfare, right? Our residential business area is downtown. and it's not as booming as it was in the 80s. You know, you had Tom's Lunch. You know, I love Sullivan's. You know, you had Rocco's Pizza, JoJo's Deli, the bakery, you know, Sal's Town Market, which is still there. And you know, maybe some of these small businesses should go see Sal Kazar and
Yeah.
ask him what his formula was, because he's been there since I was 5 years old.
Yeah, since I can remember,
Right.
you know,
But
since
they
I
all
can
know
remember.
best. Everybody
Yeah,
knows best, and they think they all have a new idea, and, you know, and good for them if that's the case. Good for them. Try it out, and if they fail, but, you know, I would talk to those who have accomplished something, and Sal Kazar has accomplished a lot.
right.
So,
I Before we go any farther, I wanted to take a moment, right? A couple years back, you and Frank McVeigh reached out to me, right?
mhm,
And you guys had awarded me something. Can you explain this? And can we
yes.
get into that for a second?
Our council, um, and since we ran, right, Frank and I had always stated to everyone we were going to recognize the common man,
Right.
because for the past 30 years in the town of Phillipsburg, it's been the same 5 families that have been recognized, and I don't need to give you their last names because we all know them.
I know.
The same 5 families have always, you know, made money off of the taxpayers, have gotten recognized, and there's a lot of good people in the town of Phillipsburg, a lot of good people. They may not have been star basketball players like Matt Skirbo, who, by the way, I love, and he was a star basketball player, just saying. But they, you know, their parents weren't police officers. They weren't. Their parents weren't mayors. Their uncles weren't mayors. They didn't have anybody involved in politics. But we wanted to recognize the people who have done positive, good, positive things in the town, and, you know, those who inspire others. And you, my friend, have inspired so many with your story. And, you know, we're all supposed to have faults because no one's perfect.
For
We're
sure.
also, you know, you didn't have to sit on that football field or play in the Peaburg Easton game to be somebody, right? You didn't.
Right.
You, to us, were just a shining light of hope. I mean, you've bounced back from so many obstacles in your youth to become the man that you are today, that you're a true success story. And that to me is what Phillipsburg is, right? Phillipsburg is that, because that's you are the embodiment of a survivor. Phillipsburg
For
people
sure.
survive. And that's what you've done. And you've survived, and you're helping people. And these aren't people that, you know, are close to you. You're helping everybody. So
Yeah.
when Frank and I sat down and we discussed it, and I let him hear your CD. We watched your Lunchbox intro, and, you know, I like the fact that you brought Butchie Tiger in, and, you know, to the
He
video.
was rest his soul. He was a staple in the community,
Right. But not many
for
people
good
felt the
or
way you
bad.
do. Right. But not many people felt that way, you
Right.
know? And it's sad because there are some people in this town who are the royal family and they feel that they're the elitists. You 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 included everyone, you know? And I thought that that was a fantastic way to approach things. And when I saw it, man, I just I looked at Frank and I said, you know, this guy right here, he's the guy that deserves the key to the city. Him, you know, and Frank goes, I agree. You know, Frank was 110% on board. And, you know, we met I'm trying to remember, it was Mark Lutz.
Mhm.
Mark Lutz was all for it. And Mark Lutz, one of the greatest councilmen this town will ever see, by the way. His heart loves this town. He is Phillipsburg through and through. Um, not one person objected. You know, Josh Davis, I had a wonderful working relationship with. He was a Democrat, you know, and I'm sorry to see that he's moved on. Uh, it's We were happy, and that was one of the best moments of the highlights of what I've done was providing you, my friend, with the key to the city, and just being able to shine some light on what you had done.
You know, I've been fortunate enough to been put in a position to help others, right?
Right.
And I had a group of strong men and women. I grew up in a town where I had 4 moms at any given point that loved me unconditionally. That weren't, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, man.
Colleen didn't have to help me. Deb didn't have to help me. Debbie Varga didn't have to help me, and they all did. They all did, and they all love me unconditionally, you know. So
Yeah.
here we are looking at a community that has been hit by addiction with no help,
Right.
you know, with no help. So the only thing I know how to do is get back, you know.
You're a beacon of light, man. You're a beacon of light, and Amanda Lance, the the
Yeah,
the, these
yeah,
are the players. Debbie Natal, these are the
yeah,
players. These are the people. Helen Carey. These are, you're not going to defeat addiction by continuously locking up heroin users, right?
right.
The Todd Tersigny came out and released something in his mayor's report a few months ago, who said we're winning the war on drugs. You're not winning the war on drugs because you made a few arrests. There's always going to be somebody else to step in, right? I mean, I don't. It's no secret. I've got drug addicts in my family. I don't think there's been one person in this world who has not been touched by addiction at one point in time. Um, and it doesn't make you a lesser human being. They need help. Um, are there lost causes? Yeah, but there's lost causes too out there that are white collar society that have everything going for them, and they're still lost causes. So,
Right.
you know, I it just goes back to how you treat people, and you want to win the war on drugs. Bring more people like you, like Amanda, like Helen, and like Debbie into this community,
Hmm.
and let you guys do your thing. We'll win the war.
And that's, for me, that's the hit, right? Like in any aspect, whether it's addiction, whether it's crime, whether it's poverty, let's start providing solutions. Let's come up with reasonable means and solutions to answer some of these questions. Let's get to the exact nature of what's causing these issues, right?
Right. Right.
I
110%.
could tell you like this, right? You're poor, you're struck with poverty, and you have a substance abuse addiction. What are you going to do? You're going to continually find ways and means to continually get high because you're fighting reality that you don't have enough money to get by.
That's right. 110% correct. You saw it when I saw it. We grew up in this town. How many of our friends were drug dealers? Right? I mean, don't name them. I'm just saying, how many of our friends were drug dealers? Right? And why were they drug dealers? Their parents weren't working, or when their parents were working, they were only making enough to pay the bills. They couldn't afford shoes to put on their feet. They got made fun of in school because of the clothes that they wore. So they took it upon themselves to go out and get a job at 13, 14-year olds selling drugs, because it's illegal to work at 13, 14 years old anywhere else. But they made a living selling drugs. Was it the right way to go about it? No. But it got them, it gave them some type of, closure to what they were suffering. It didn't. I'm not saying they were right, but
Right. Not at all.
and I'm going to swear, but you had a lot of assholes, all
Right.
right, that were provided silver spoons in their mouth, that would go to school and make fun of these kids. You know, oh, you smell. Oh, you're wearing old sneakers. Look at the clothes you're wearing. You know what I mean? You're trash. And they call their family names. And what's wrong with you? You're
I
just
re-
as guilty. You
I
know,
remember how good I felt, right?
right?
The very first time I bought a Nike t-shirt.
Isn't that something, man?
A Nike t-shirt, bro.
Brother,
Yeah, and let me be real clear right now, right? I went to Catholic school because my aunt and uncle paid for the tuition the entire time I was there to provide a better way for me because my mom and dad couldn't afford it. Right? My dad
right?
was a hard ass worker that worked for Ingersoll Rand for 30 years of his life, and my mother was a crossing guard.
Yeah,
They made enough just to get by.
right. Dude, you see, that's what Phillipsburg was, and your parents loved you to death, and they busted
For
their ass.
sure.
Didn't make him any less of a human being, but then you got these other people out there passing judgment, right?
Yeah.
Because their parents were, again, either working for the town, making $160,000 a year. They weren't earning it, right?
Whatever the case may be, and we could take this scope off of Phillipsburg because this shit is like this
All over.
everywhere now.
It's everywhere. Absolutely. I agree with you 110%. I can only focus on Phillipsburg because it's my direct
That's
community.
where we're at, right?
Correct. I'm not looking for bigger aspirations. I love my community, and I want to see my community go back to the way it was, in terms of unification, but I want to see it out of poverty. And again, you know, just like you said, there have been way too many people that we've known who have grown up in poverty. Us, listen, we were. I mean, I rocked those British Knights, baby. Right?
Man, I had the XJ900 Winter Freshness from Sears that Marianne put on her card once a year.
Right, dude. We did not have money, and
Right.
so when people say things like, "Why are you always in a suit?"
I remember when Bobby got me my first pair of skids and a Z Cavarici t-shirt.
Yeah,
And I
man,
swear
from
to
the
God, I
merry-go-round.
was the flyest kid on the block.
From the merry-go-round in the Phillipsburg Mall.
Yes.
Yeah, dude. That was a great time in a town. I mean, I know it wasn't in Phillipsburg, but when they opened up the mall, that was a great hangout. Food court.
Most
Everybody worked there.
definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And real fast, I just noticed that Debbie and Bowden is watching.
She is.
And I just want to say, Deb, I love you. Thank you, Mom, for all you've done for all of us, for everybody that's crossed your path one way or another growing up. I don't know if you know how much that means to all of us, but thank you.
Without a doubt, Debbie, I love you with all of my heart. And I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for Debbie and Bowden. And I'm sure she
Man,
could tell that story one day. But she, I love her to death. And she'll always have a special place in my heart.
for sure. She was Cartagena just said it the best, man. The mom to all of us. It's funny that Phillipsburg provided me so many brothers.
Yep.
So many moms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Schiller, Cleavers. I mean, we were all the Dipples, Delgado. We were all one large family. And, we would fight within ourselves, but God help you if you fought with us. Like if you were an outsider, God help you. Say every single one of them, man. Hannah Sachs. I mean, there were so many different people. The Slacks. We all stuck together, and that's what made Phillipsburg so great, man. It made Phillipsburg so great.
And that's what, for me, that's what it's about, right? Like the last video I shot was the Go Hard video. That wasn't for me. I didn't really, out of every song on that album, that song was not video worthy to me.
Oh, I think every song you have is video worthy, but that's just me. I mean,
Laura, you're right. Jen P should get a shout out too. That's Eric. That's Eric and Cody's mother. She used to live right next door where the Amy's used to live. She moved in after the Amy's, and she did the same. Jen P did the same thing Deb did, Marianne did, Colleen did, Debbie Varga did,
And listen, if we forget somebody, it's not because it's purposely. It's just
no, definitely not.
That's how big
Definitely
Phillipsburg was, and how tight we all were. And we could be here we'll be here till 10 o'clock at night if we named everybody, right?
For sure, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
but I brought up the Go Hard, and not to point the light on me, but to say we filled that park that day, and I made sure everybody got a plate of food, and the line wrapped around the building, and that's what Phillipsburg is. And it only came from a post. Hey, I'm shooting a video at Freeman School. I'd like everybody to come by.
What you did was nothing short of amazing. If anybody should have been in politics, it should have been you.
Listen, Skirbo, I just seen the post Skirbo made, the original mayor, right? The original mayor. And I say all that to say I'm just happy to be here, right? God has afforded me another opportunity to get this going,
right?
To have a good redo, right? Like I have it tattooed on my chest. What Bobby used to say, life is not a dress rehearsal, while he was dying from cancer. Listen, I'm trying to live my life the way Marianne, Debbie, Colleen, Debbie will be proud. Bobby,
Yeah.
Skirbo
120%.
just hold on. Skirbo just said, I remember playing tackle football in the street on Lewis. Cars are inbounds. Funny story, right? Funny story. I lost my front tooth as a kid playing football in that street, running backwards, turn around, boom, right into a parked car.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah.
Man.
I heard about that accident, if you would, from 14 to 20.
And that song, yo, Skirbo is one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet.
Oh, AJ just said, "Oh, my favorite story." Yeah, because I
You
was like, if we're being honest, I was the only fat kid that had hands
know?
that could
Listen,
catch like that. And I credit that to the Skirbos, to the Cleavers, to the older kids that would punch the shit out of me if I dropped the football.
you know what, man? I mean, I listen, I didn't have anybody punching me. I wasn't a very good football player, but I never lost my teeth in a pickup game. So I do have one up.
Crazy, crazy. Before
Man.
we get out of here, we're gonna do a part 2 because I just wanted to come on here and break the ice a little bit.
Yeah.
You know
I'd
what I
love
mean?
that.
The part 2 is going to be a little different. I wanted to come on and break the ice a little bit, but before we go, is there anything you want to ask me? God, I hate this part of the show.
Yeah, you know what? Listen, I do, and I'm looking forward to the part 2 because we can get a little bit more into some of the serious stuff about what drove me, where it drove me, and I do have some atonement I'd like to make, and there's a lot of recognition I'd like to give, but you know, in my life, there's always been people who have I've looked up to and have driven me, right? And one of them was my father.
Right.
If I could be like anyone in this world, it would be like my father. And um, I who in your life, if you could only choose one, and that's going to be tough, I know that, but if you could only choose one person who you would like to be like, and why, who would it be?
Living or dead?
Either one. My father's gone, so I would still choose him.
Okay, I got 3.
Well, I said you can only choose one, but it's your show. You make the rules.
I got 3, all for very valid and different reasons.
Okay, let's hear 'em.
My mom, Marianne, because she had a heart of gold.
Yep.
For everybody. I was adopted at 3 days old, and she took me in, and she loved me unconditionally. Bobby, because he taught me a couple things. You don't take shit from anybody, and you give out the shit. Don't ever let anybody tell you you're less than.
That's right.
And no matter what happens, no matter how bad you are, tomorrow's a new day, a new chapter. You always get a redo, and live every day to the fullest.
Man.
And the last one was, my cousin Ed Tarpey, right?
Great basketball player.
Every person that comes in contact with, I wish I had the kindred spirit that Tarp has. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying I know I can be a grumpy old man, is what I'm saying sometimes, right? But like everybody that crosses his path, he's so genuine, loving, and caring, right?
Right.
Here's a quick story. I was in my worst in addiction, right? And Tarp said to me, one of these Sundays, why don't you, let me take you to church,
Right.
And so I went there. And the time that he took me, I was high, you know. But he cared enough for me and about me to take me somewhere to plant a seed that years later saved my life. And I'm not saying that church saved my life, but God intervened somewhere along the way on the last run, on the last overdose, that he saw fit that I had more to do here, that the job wasn't done.
Man, and that's deep, brother.
So if you can combine that holy trinity into one person,
That's deep. I should have known better. But and that's like I said, it's your show, and if you choose three, that's three. Man, I know you're about to wrap up. If it's possible, I'd like to just give it. I'd like to thank you for having me on.
Man, well, again, we are family, bro. We are
Well,
family.
uh,
Who would
uh,
you like to shout out?
my wife and kids for sure. My wife Melissa, my son Jackson, my daughter Giovanna, my daughter Gemma, and my son Vincent. Unfortunately, Vincent's sick. We're waiting on his COVID test to come back. My wife just got over COVID. My mother, who's Debbie, my mother Debbie, who's home battling COVID. It's I love my family, every single Fulper out there that, and there's my dad had 13 brothers and sisters, and they're out there, all the Monteleone side of my family. My friends, everybody who came here this evening. I mean, I saw Chris Vant, from Chris Vant is my brother from when we were kids. I mean, from the block, and it's just a lot of great kids. Joe Unex is out there. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. Mike Sexton. I really want to say Randy Piazza, Mark Lutz, Pete Marino, Frank McVeigh. Frank McVeigh's innocent. I'm going to say that right now. As my son Vincent would say, free my boy Frank. He ain't do nothing. Frank McVeigh, who has been a guiding light and a brother to me through the past actually since I was a kid, but past 5-6 years, he's been like a brother. There are a lot of good families here in the town of Phillipsburg, and I can promise you this: I don't know what our future holds, but I know that whatever we choose, we're going to choose to do it together. We're going to move forward together, and whether we're still in politics or we're not, we are going to do it together. And I'd be remiss if I left out those the Fuokos, the Paulus family, the Stone families, and I'm trying the Boyce families, the Moores, and again, it could go on and on because I've had a ton of supporters, and they've all become like family to me, and I don't want to miss anyone. But I just want to tell you all that I love you. I'm thankful for each and every single one of you. Grateful for the opportunity. It was an honor to represent you for 4 years. You now have new representation. I want to move forward and not look back. And TJ, I'm really looking forward to part 2, to where you can.
What are you doing next Wednesday?
I'll be here with you.
Let's lock it in right now. Next Wednesday we'll come back for part 2.
Gather up all the questions.
Before we go, I got one left in the chamber.
Let's do it.
What's in your playlist? It's not a Spittin' with Spitter show if I don't ask you what is in your playlist.
Man, well, listen, you'll never, ever, ever, ever get me to say that I do jam out to your Lunchbox intro. All right, it's in my playlist.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I'm a huge rock fan. Honestly, I haven't really I haven't listened to a lot lately. There was a song that Jesse Delgado's daughter did for him. I've been listening to that. Every now and then. I listen to whatever my kids put on the show. I'm a married man with 4 children. They control the radio.
Right, for sure.
I appreciate it, though. And I mean, listen, but if it means anything, the Lunchbox intro is there.
I'm just happy to be here.
Man, listen,
I'm just happy to be here.
Well, I hope no matter what it is that comes in the future, I hope that, whatever we put together, you're a big part of it. And,
Absolutely.
I can get you to play. Maybe you'll do my intro.
I'm with it, bro. Next Wednesday, tune in at 8 p.m. and we are really going to dive into what drives Bobby Fulper.
I love you, man.
Love you back. Don't leave though. We're gonna end the show. I want to run some things by you before we go.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
everybody for tuning in tonight. I appreciate y'all. Tune in next Wednesday for part 2.
Thank you.
Peace.